Hey, Rayland Baxter, welcome to eTown.
Thank you.
It was as I said, I heard you this summer live. I'd been hearing a little bit about you, and then I just like, yeah, we got to make this happen. That song, Let It Go, Man, a mantra for today, advice from your dad. And was it your dad who was playing on the record, playing pedal steel?
Yes, on that song, yeah.
Yeah. And so am I right that you were into lacrosse as a teenager and young adult?
Very right.
Yeah. And not so much about the music business and following in your dad's multi-instrumentalist footsteps.
No, honestly, I'm still not into the music business. Or even, he did his thing. He was a multi-instrumentalist and a sideman. And he was like, Ray, if I could have had it my way, I would have been front and center, baby. So,
really?
You know,
he said that?
Yeah, he's been an incredible resource for, what he's learned as a sideman, watching Steve Earle develop, and coming into Bob Dylan's final, not final, but the Time Out of Mind era in the '90s, which is one of the greatest tours they ever did. He's seen Ryan Adams, Sheryl Crow. He's the Beastie Boys, Los Lobos. He's been all around and seen how they do it. So he was always giving me constructive criticism. He says less these days, but every time he says something, I'm just like, okay, yeah, you're right. But it's great.
It's cool when your
lucky.
dad is. Most kids resist advice from their parents, but when your dad is cool and he's been on the road with Bob Dylan and the Beastie Boys and Sheryl Crow and Steve Earle and Los Lobos, you think, okay, I'm going to listen. It'd be hard to just ignore that. Yeah,
but not to leave my mother out of this. She's a sensitive singer, with great vibrato.
Yeah,
and so, she's probably listening to this. I know she is. That's not why I brought her up. Dynamic duo.
Yeah,
they were dynamic to make me and my sister, and then not so dynamic after that.
Yeah. Not so dynamic after that.
No, that was all they needed to meet for. My sister's an amazing human being, and they just needed to come together. And then
did they split after that?
Yeah, when I was like 1.5.
Yeah.
Like, all right, time's up.
All right. Well, listen. Whatever the ingredients were, it worked. For us, it worked out. We get to enjoy the fruits of their labors and yours. Listen, one of the things that's cool is your record is kind of well produced and dense and lush in parts, and it's got a wonderful, to my ear, kind of a Brit-pop sensibility, but more Kinks than Beatles, but melodic and really interesting stuff. Then hearing you with acoustic guitar, I imagine that's more like the way the songs were written when you were staying in that crazy rubber band factory in Kentucky for a few months.
Yeah. The songs should exist in all forms, whether it's a cappella, with just a guitar or maybe a piano or a string section or a full band, and it should be able to scream, and it should be able to nurture, And so I think that I wrote a bunch of songs, and then I made guitar vocal kind of demos that sounded like maybe what Elliott Smith would have done, which is double acoustic guitar, double vocal. I put some harmonies, some snaps, some whistles, and stuff like that. And they stand alone, at one point I was like, no, there's a record. I don't need to do a bunch of band stuff. But then I like to rip into an electric guitar 250 days out of the year. You know what I mean? So it doesn't. I started playing in coffee shops and small venues, where all I could afford to do was bring myself.
Right.
One of my best friends, Austin, who's been a tour manager since day one. He booked the coffee shop tour.
Right.
And he's still with us, as he should be. And so I just wanted to do more and more, and so I figured that the songs, it would be a nice surprise that people to hear the songs like this rather than the other way around.
No, it's cool. And now you've done you've shown the world that you can rock out. And so when you go tour with your band, people can really hear the songs the way the record is. But like I said, this is a cool glimpse into that. And I have my own image of what that 3 months or whatever it was in the rubber band factory, which is just such a cool thing to be able to say. Most artists don't get to say that they spent a few months in an old dilapidated rubber band factory. It's kind
amazing.
of romantic, just a combination of words.
Yeah, well, my friend Billy is from his grandfather is one of the pioneers of the rubber band. Back in the early, or his great-grandfather, back in the early 1920s.
There's another combination of words that you don't hear very often.
Yeah, right?
A rubber band pioneer.
He would take old tractor tires and rip them up because he was a newspaper delivery guy, and so he was tired of clipping them or having to walk them up to the mailbox. So he took old rubber from the tractor tires and tied it, and then found a way to adhese them.
Yeah, either
Stick them together.
Yeah.
And
it's Kentucky after all.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then it just turned into something. And so that factory they moved to Arkansas 20 years ago, and his family has sat on it, and then he had been collecting antique recording gear or vintage recording gear. And it's now a functioning, amazing studio.
Wild.
And I lived in a room. After day one, I had like blanketed all the windows and pulled a mattress in there and had a Wurlitzer and an old guitar and a bunch of paper and markers and cigarettes and red wine.
Mm-hmm. Any food?
I pretty much ate cereal and oatmeal, and then those those burritos they sell at Whole Foods where you microwave them. Mm-hmm. But there was no microwave in the studio, so I had to heat them up, and the edges would get really hard. And it took me 3 months to master the art of cooking one of those burritos in an oven. But the coyotes were howling at night. It was surrounded by cornfields. There were bald eagles in the daytime, and I'd go walking around, and it was spooky. It was from Halloween until February of the next year.
And not a lot of other people around most of the time.
No, but except for Beautiful Bruce. Just to add to the mixture,
okay.
Billy's dad is the famous WWE wrestler Beautiful Bruce. And so this is before it became, Beautiful Bruce was right when Andre the Giant came in, was the end of Beautiful Bruce's career. So Beautiful Bruce would come in and be like, "Hey, Ray, you still writing in there? Damn, it's been 4 days. I like your work ethic, son. You got it, man." And then he'd drive off. So that was
wow.
Yeah. Plenty of stuff to write about.
Yeah. Wow.
Woo!
So I also want to add one other little piece to the mix, which is in the midst of this solitude, other than the occasional visits by Beautiful Bruce. You had the television on, and you were listening to the news at kind of a wacky time, right? This was like upside down world.
Yeah, well, yeah, the Cubs won the World Series, and the election was going on. Leonard Cohen had passed on, and so there was just plus just the news in general. It was always on in the kitchen, and there was tile floor from the path of my office to the kitchen, and so I could hear it fine. And for some reason, it was just on. I'd go turn it off, and it must have been on a timer because then it would just turn on, and I never touched it.
Yeah,
wow. I liked it because that 79 Shiny Revolvers was the first song I wrote in the studio. And it was kind of after the Dallas shootings had happened, and after like a long, it's just all that's.
Yeah, it's in there.
And I don't want to be too opinionated in life because it doesn't really matter on some levels what I truly think, but I do have eyes, and sometimes they open up and see it, and just take a snapshot and then move on and hope. And remain hopeful of the human race, that we smooth it out, which is there's plenty of smoothed out that's happened that happens always. Just it's a matter of what we get to see and how one sees the world. You know, because there's so much crazy headbutting that's gone on for thousands of years. Like when I was living in Israel, the land of the crusade. You know, and my God better than your God, and it's a silly argument. It seems, I think, which makes my day-to-day life pretty easy. I kind of just like wipe it off with the windshield wipers and see the sun, and it's been nice once I kind of clicked into this mode.
Well, the record is called Wide Awake, after all, and I love the fact that you're corroborating that completely amorphous, optimistic statement I made at the top of the show about how artists are paying attention and bringing this back to us through their songs, and I thought that it sounded a little too hippie, but wasn't nearly as hippie as what you just said.
Far out, man.
We're gonna figure this out, you and
If we
me.
were in Nashville right now, I'd be like, well, damn, man, I don't know, just kind of open my eyes, take a sip of beer, wrote down.
There are more stories buried in all of these songs, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to let you know, there's stories in all these songs. One of them suggests that you got locked up in Baltimore. One of your friends ratted you out and you went to jail for a few days. I don't know if that's true or not, but it was like...
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, we've got more music to get to. I have a feeling that this is not the last time we're going to be hanging out and telling tales here. So I'm glad you're here. Let's get back to music. Welcome back, if you would, Rayland Baxter.
Let it all go, man. Just let it all go, man. Let it all go. Here comes the 4/5.
Hi, this is Nick Forster from eTown. If you want to stay up to date with all the performances, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage, click the subscribe button. Thanks.